This video is called Offending the Programs and Getting Gang Stalked. So, these demons come through the organic portals, and they switch on and off. Much like the Matrix movie where the agent comes through the organic portal. They switch on and off these organic portals like that. And have you noticed they switch on in your presence, the soul player or source player as it's called, or the souled human? Yeah, it's interesting because you offend them. The demon is essentially like a program of this matrix. They don't have an existence as high as you, so to speak, outside of the house of mirrors that is this matrix. This simulatory environment. So this simulatory environment runs programs and NPCs, and we've talked about a lot of this already. But I did programming back in university a year ago. So I'm finally graduated, postgraduate, yippee-ki-yay. Got a piece of paper. Oh, awesome. No, I did my degree to show them that I can do what they can do. But truly, if the indigos, do it the way that, the dark masters have orchestrated society and do things their ways, we're sure to fail. We have to create new ways, and that's part of the creating new earth. The proper way, not the elites new world order, but by the people, for the people. We have to do that with food plants and then free energy technologies, like even solar panels are free energy technology. But there's, fusion, there's so many little contraptions around the world, magnetic devices. Eventually we'll have abundance, and then we can go to the stars, we can get all the resources we need. There is no scarcity in an abundant universe. So these, matrix programs are here running very deep and steeped hard on Earth. Earth is steeped hard in this energy right now. It's come out of the dark age where the filth of matter has covered light. And the children of light are sick of it, and we're now piercing this dark veil. And we're going to create the new world via consciousness, because consciousness is the stream of evolution. Now, what's interesting, when you run all these new scripts, like, we're here to change stuff, we want change, system busting, and so on and so forth. We're running new scripts and different scripts, and you get basically interference with them. You tick them off and activate them, because you're running a different script. Their try-catchers can't handle your code, the arguments being passed in the functions of your code. You're here mass mind reprogramming the mass mind via consciousness. And that's like shifting energies out of the grids, because a lot of energy has become stuck now at the end of history. A good example is how money, because money is like a current of energy and currencies. And, that's become stuck in people like these elite families, the 1%. That shows you on a graph, stuck energy really is what it's showing you when, half of the world's wealth, or 70 or 80% or even more one day, probably, because it doesn't look like it's stopping. When, 50% or more of the wealth is in 1% of the people's hands, these elites, then you know that that's stuck energy, And I think that's a lot of what's going to change. They're going to have a very difficult time releasing that energy and their, control, hold, grip. But, the flow of the universe is stronger than their control, hold, grip, which is basically trying to stem the flow of the universal flow of evolution and forward motion, essentially now. How long can you stifle the electric car for without looking bad? Same with solar technology. How long can they, empower oil companies before we get sick of it and say, why aren't you doing as much subsidies, as many subsidies for the, solar panels and so on to the governments? Sorry, I'm just laying on my back. A little bit of phlegm in my throat there. So it's interesting. What happens is we seem to, activate these matrix agents and the demons that come through the organic portal people who are just their bodies. And a body has a type of consciousness which is basically unconscious because sensed stored electrical waves of the body are not necessarily conscious of themselves. They're just a sensed, then a stored electrical wave. We're saying that consciousness is this like one light that has all the omni abilities, omnipresence, omnisentience, blah blah blah. Omnisentience, for instance, means all that sentience, all the electrical stored wave activity anywhere in your body, the guy's next to you's body, the girl over there 10 meters away, everyone. In everyone's bodies, the consciousness, the light that, we say is God, is sensing all the stored electrical waves, and that it's a type of like higher light. And it can travel the topological field, in an instant and all that business. So anyway, it's like, angels versus demons kind of thing people are saying with gang stalking. But this is how you basically begin to get gang stalked, when you run different code. That's why I said in my How to Sense Archons Part 1 video, Piercing the Veil, that there indeed is a veil of basically frequency control. And it's just that their code is like crappy, basically. It's very simple code. People, there's this word now, simping, which is interesting because it also kind of rhymes with Sims. The game Sims, and then that also tethers to the idea of that reality is a simulation, or what the Buddhists and all these meditators have been, Taoist monks and all this have been telling us for, eons, that it's an illusion, that everything is an illusion. That's essentially right. It's simulatory and the field of illusion. So I don't like to say this is all an illusion, I'm just a simulation, just because that runs deep into apathy and indifference, and not to mention, suicidal, depressive nature. And so it's better to realize it, and I think this is the case. It's simulatory and a field of illusion. The field of illusion, has a little bit different of a sense to it. So anyway, I think this is how we activate and we get gang stalked to begin with. You might have done it at a very young age, you might have been in preschool. But, I really think it's from birth, probably. The moment your frequency enters this place, the matrix is aware of your frequency as you enter, you see? That's what I think is the real case. Once you sort of enter in here, it's almost like us souled humans are like almost like a foreign body now, and that it's having like a response and pumping out NPCs to try and locate us all and stop this change. That's weird, right? Like, you see that happening? look at the world, look at through media and stuff. It's weird. Like so much unconsciousness. Who cares if you beat that next swimmer by 100th of a second at the Olympics? Big deal. It's 100th of a second. And so what? Over 20 years we get a couple of seconds faster. Yippee do. And so what if you got a Ferrari? You're too moronic and too myopic, short-sighted to see that is only like a quarter way point or something, or less, a tenth of away from, the first idea of something mobile like a vehicle, a cart maybe or something, all the way to, that's the same thing. The cart is the same thing as the starship, and the Ferrari is maybe a tenth of the way to the starship. So everyone's so proud with their Lamborghinis and shit, but really I want a starship, or a super suit. Maybe that's where it's, a tenth of the way to, and like an Iron Man suit that's, like more skinny and upgraded nanotech or something, that's the future, and you can just zoom off like all the movies where the superhero, like Neo, in the end of Matrix, just flies off. Well, that's our imagination. That's going to come real one day, just like we'll have unicorns one day. And maybe, the elites, when they put out a whole lot of merchandise of unicorns, are saying, hey, we are right now looking into chimera research heavily. Soon there's going to be a unicorn. I just remember one video that came on the internet, on YouTube, about unicorns being everywhere. I think it was by Truth Stream Media. And one day we'll have every creature you can imagine. You can make any chimera or whatever, but Ray Kurzweil says by 2040, but even if it's not by then, it's by 30, 50, 40, one day. So let's reel that back in again. You're here like changing the code and upgrading the code to keep it moving forward, and you see that it's always the case where truth passes through those three stages of, first it's violently opposed, which means it can be laughed at in that stage, because laughter is like a violent opposition, that ignorance laughter, and then you realize, hey, wait a minute, maybe that is true or real or something, And then you get the other two stages of truth, and it's finally accepted at the end in the third stage as self-obviant or obvious. So we've got this whole awakening here at the end of history that reality is a simulation. We've found code in physics of zeros and ones, and I had the idea at the end in 2012 I was coding, and that was completely novel, and obviously, that was me surfing the concrescence to the eschaton, because right at the end I was deepest into my code in IMAD, interactive multimedia applications development. So it wasn't even just basic HTML anymore. It was, full JavaScript, Adobe, and, you put it in a HTML page. So all these web languages started coming together, and so, it's pretty interesting that at the end there, the code was revealed, kind of thing, and I also became the creator of the code, and that was simulacrous to what was consciously going on. That, there was the whole law of attraction movement, for instance, that you could change the code, that you could make the code what you wanted. That's basically what those law of attraction people are saying. And you can kind of make the code the way you want it if you consciously program. And that's what, the indigos, the souled people, whatever you want to call us all. And the way I use the word indigo is in the id, like higher self go, in the id go. Instead of ego is the steward of the body, and the id is the steward of the higher light body. So that's why we say that. It's less esoteric too than originally when I looked into that word. Anyway, so I think this is how you originally got gang stalked. You activated the system. You set off the alarm, changing the code, messing with the code there. young Skywalker Jedi, you know.